So today we remember all of those people who sacrificed their lives so that we would be here today, so that we would have a country here today. We're privileged to have someone who joined the army and gave a few years of his life to serve the country of Israel, to share his story with us. So I would like to introduce Alex Bublick.
Everyone, thank you for having me to speak. This is obviously a very, I don't want to say special, it's a very unique HaZikaron today, after everything that has happened. Just before I get started, first off, when I go through my story, today is not about me. This is a whole perspective of just knowing someone, a Jew from Indianapolis, Indiana, and basically just to kind of open up your minds on what it is to be a Jew and what the state of Israel means to us. But before we get started, I just wanted to say a couple of things. As you can see here, 25,040 soldiers have fallen since the inception of the IDF. Since October the 7th, 822 innocent civilians were murdered due to terror. 716 since October 7th, IDF soldiers, police officers, members of the Israel's national security forces were murdered due to terror. Since the inception of Israel, 30,141 IDF soldiers, police officers, members of Israel's national security forces, and civilians have lost their lives due to war and terror. And over 4,070 innocent civilians were murdered in terror attacks. So I just want to put this up there today. We cry for them tomorrow. We celebrate because of them. So throughout today, keep this in mind. Tomorrow we will celebrate what everyone has sacrificed, what all the soldiers, even, I don't know if it's discussed from the pogroms, the Holocaust, whatever that might be, where Jewish souls have perished, and people who protect the state of Israel, and not just Jews. There's Druze, Arabs who also help protect the state of Israel. So everyone who helps protect our freedom, today we cry for them, tomorrow we'll celebrate them. I just wanted to put this up here, as like I mentioned before, throughout the slideshow, I just want you to keep in mind, what does it mean to you to be a Jew? Because I'll tell you my story. Like I said, today is not about me. And I just want to give you another perspective of what it's like to be a Jew from another area and what Israel and being a Jew means to me. But throughout my presentation, I just want you to keep that in mind and think about what it means to be a Jew. So a little bit about my background. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm from Carmel, it's right next to Indianapolis. I went to Indiana University. I was studying to be hospitality for a little bit, and then I took some time off to go to Israel. But during my time when I was at IU, I'll show this next slide, I didn't know much about Israel growing up. I was very connected to my Judaism. I came from a very Zionistic household, but I wasn't an observant Jew. We came from a more traditional house. But I always felt a connection to the Jewish people. Until I got older, I went on Birthright when I was 18. And that's me on a camel with my cousin, riding Birthright. And then the next summer, I went on a trip with Chabad. It was kind of a more extensive Birthright Tag Lead program, and that's where you see me here, just kind of goofy. And then after that, I went back to Yeshiva, or the year after that, I went back for a winter, and I went to a Yeshiva program. And that's where you see me here with the black hat and like with some of my friends. And during that time, we went to an army base, and this was on Purim. And after all these experiences, it kind of let a trigger into me. And after meeting a lot of people as Jews, I'm like, how can I let them fight for my country too, even though I get to be in America, and I don't have missiles over my head every day. But I see what they're struggling with, and I kind of sparked something in me, and I just decided to join out of the blue. It was pretty big news to my family. I don't know if it took a lot of convincing, I'll just put it that way. So before I joined the Army, they make you go through a Makina process, a pre-Army program. And I just kind of wanted to show you a little bit of what that's like. Because to get really induced into the Israeli society, into the IDF, it takes a lot of effort. It's not just like, because you're a Jew, you show up and everything's fine. Israel is very different, but there's a connection, which I'll explain in a little bit, on how everything ends up working out very easily. But you can see here, during the Makina, we did a bunch of different things. We were working on some kibbutzim. We toured around the country. This is us davening shacharit. This is us, we did like some mission on base, like some teamwork stuff. And over here, this was like some army preparation. We were like running around, they're making us do push-ups and like yelling at us, basically getting us prepared to join the army. Then that's us carrying, what do you call it? What's the word? In English, stretcher. Yeah. Stretcher and with weight on it to emulate what it's like carrying someone on it. Because you do that a lot in the Army, especially during training. So this is my first day drafting. I drafted to a Hebrew course called Mikveh Alon. Most people go there who are lone soldiers to learn Hebrew. I didn't mention this. I did not know how to speak any Hebrew before I went into the Army. I could just read and write. Funny enough, it got me into like a higher level of Hebrew, but once they realized I couldn't speak a word of Hebrew, they moved me down to a different class, which kind of sucked because I made a lot of friends, but it's fine. I made new friends in the new course. But what was particularly interesting about this experience is there were people from all different backgrounds who came to Mikveh Alon. You had not even just Jews, but you had Russians, Australians, British, French, and somehow it all seems to work. There's no other army in the world that can have something like this and have it work. I can't explain it to you, but it's probably the most unique experience of my life, getting to work with and learn with people from all different backgrounds and all to achieve the same goal, and that is to learn our language and be able to speak to each other. The first thing I thought that was really cool is this isn't a picture of us davening, but we're on our way to go daven, and I can't speak to the French guy, and we can't speak and have a conversation, but the first thing I thought that was really cool is when we get to go daven, all of us are davening together, and it's pretty cool that you can come from the whole other side of the universe, still have the same davening, and there's no other people in the world who have something like that. So we're very special people, and that was a big eye-opener for me. This was at the end of the Ulpan. This is when I graduated from it. I didn't really mean a lot, but I got like the best in my class because I guess I got the most learning out of it after. I scored a 3 on the Hebrew exam out of 10. So I was able to get into combat, but I didn't know like any Hebrew. I just kind of followed everyone around as they would like do everything, but it was good enough. But this was a very special day, and we were all very excited because then we were finding out where we were going to draft into what unit after this. So this is a picture of me when I first drafted in the Natal Brigade 931. That was my first day going to draft to the base, and they put you on a bus and basically take you off. As a lone soldier, they take you a little bit early to meet like your Hebrew teacher. We had a Hebrew teacher on base, so we went there a little early, learned a little bit of Hebrew throughout the whole experience. They pull us out during training and also teach us Hebrew to continue our Ulpan. That was when I first got my gun. That was a pretty cool experience, holding that for the first time. And then this is just some of my buddies that were in my class for the first 8 months. So there's a bunch of pictures here. This is during our 8-month Akshara, our training. It was very intense. It was probably the hardest 8 months of my life. And then thinking about it, I don't even know what soldiers who are, I was in like the basic level of combat. So like, I was at 07, which there's like 02, 03, 05, 07. So I was at like the basic level of combat. And then above that, you get like crazy units that these guys go through. In one minute, they go through crazy things. I went through a lot of craziness. I can't even imagine what the guys that you see going into Gaza and doing special missions, they're going through a lot. So there's some things like you can see here. They're carrying the stretcher and doing hikes and camping out like for weeks at a time. This was us after a whole week outside. This was us, we did during a war week. We actually had to pretend to be like the enemy for the other unit that was, or the other class before us that was just about to finish their whole training, and we had to like pretend to be the enemy and like surprise them and stuff. So we were outside for like a week, camping out, and building bonding with these guys was probably the most incredible experience of my life. This is a little bit more training. I was given a light machine gun, the Negev, and that's me shooting it. That's during our week of war. It's called Shavua Milchama, and they kind of put you through a mini experiment in like our mini Gaza, and you have to do a bunch of missions and things like that. And here this was at the beginning of the training, just learning how to shoot and learning how to like attack like the enemy, I guess. So this was a very special moment for me in the Army. You know what? It's very easy to get caught up when you're in the Army and like forget why you're there. You start to think maybe you forget. Like in Mechina, they teach you that you're there for the Jewish people and for all these things. And then once you're going through all these hardships, it's really hard to keep that in mind. They took us on a trip to Jerusalem for a week, and they taught us all about Israel, the different wars, different things like that. And it kind of brought us back into focus of what was actually going on and why we're here. And I thought this was just a very special moment for me throughout my whole experience. So this is when I swore in. They gave me a IDF Tanakh, and I swore in, and I promised that I'd protect the country with everything and with my whole heart and all that. And that was at the Kotel. It was a very special moment also for me. So then I had a very interesting whole training and whole shirut. It happened to be during the COVID pandemic, and it's kind of a weird time in Israel because they were shutting down a lot of things. It was odd, to tell you the truth. I don't really know how I feel about it because they were shutting down people from going to places and stuff, and one of our jobs was to kind of be a part of that. We worked hand in hand with the police forces. Kind of weird telling Israelis and Jews like you cannot be outside your house, but it was for the greater good at the time, from what we knew at the time. But this is us with some like police officers in Yerushalayim. That's me with like wearing the police vest and stuff like that. So this is one thing I wanted to emphasize. I have 2 slides on this. I put brotherhood up here. And these are just a bunch of just random pictures of me with my buddies from the Army. And the thing you'll notice is they all have different backgrounds, different skin color, different ethnicity, everything. No one is alike. There's people there who don't know the Shema, they don't know the first story in the Tanakh, they couldn't tell you anything. And then you have someone who's like extremely, or more dati, you have a mix of everyone, but there's something that's like uniquely special about the IDF, that there's no other place in the world that is like this, that you build a brotherhood. You can come from Indianapolis, Indiana, coming from a place where you don't even know really what it's like to be a Jew, and then come to Israel, not know a language, fully enjoying the army and become brothers with these people, with the other soldiers. So this is just some of my buddies, and then here are just some more pictures of me and my guys. You see, it's a very diverse crowd. So this was our Masakunta. That's when we did I think it was 50 kilometers, something like that. It was a very long hike. We got our Green Berets, and that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. It felt very rewarding, and that's all these guys right here, the two of them. They're my good friends from America, and this was my kita that I went through training with. And you can see we're all very happy that we finished. But right after this, we went on a bus up to Lebanon, so we weren't really, it wasn't it was like a love-hate kind of moment. So these are just some different places I was at during my whole experience. Over there, I was in Lebanon, doing some border patrol, and to be honest, my service was quite quiet, thank God. Towards the end of it, some things started up in the north, but thank God it wasn't anything like that's happening now. But over there, I was up in Lebanon in some trucks doing some patrol duty. Here, I was on the border of Gaza, and I was also on the border of Gaza here, and then here I was in Hebron. It was, honestly, I thought Hebron was probably one of the coolest places I've ever been in my life. You see Arabs and Jews walking together, and you see Jews walking on Shabbat to go daven, and it's just a very interesting dynamic. I've never seen anything like it in my life, but I had to say that's probably one of the highlights of my whole experience was being in Hebron. So this is just something I wanted to mention. This soldier right here, his name is Ariel Biton. It's unbelievable. He went through all this training, went on to become a commander. He was a pretty good friend of mine. We weren't the best buddies in the world, but we went through training together, and he kind of was a part of this was all the Hayalim Bodedim soldiers. He was kind of a part of us, even though he was Israeli, but he was at the Nova Festival, and he happened to pass away during that day. And that's just something I kind of wanted to show and commemorate him, because he was a very good guy, and you could go through your whole army experience, protecting the country, and you're worried you're gonna not make it through your army experience, and then after that, a terrorist attack happens. So you never know what's gonna happen. And that will come to my next slide here in a sec, what I'm about to share. Oh, before I get to that, this was just some, as I was talking about brotherhood, once October 7th happened, these are some of my friends that I was in the army with, and they didn't have gear, so my dad and I, and some of my wife, and a lot of us, we raised efforts and funds to get my friends the gear that they needed up in the north when they got called back. Thank God they are okay right now. Back to what I was talking about before, I actually work for a company called Israel Bonds right now, and we essentially, what we do is help raise money for the state of Israel through selling bonds. It's a little complicated, I'll just leave it at that, but I had a really cool experience last week where I got to meet some Nova Festival survivors, and particularly this man right here, his name was Daniel, and he shared with me his whole story, and it was interesting. I had some friends there who didn't know how to speak with any of the Israelis that this happened to, and because I was in the army, I was able to go up to him and tell him I was in the army too, and we started talking, and it's very uncomfortable. Like, how do you approach someone who just went through a tragedy like that? And we started talking, actually became really good friends. After the exhibit, we stayed and were speaking for a couple hours. He told me his whole story. You know, something he told me that will live with me for the rest of my life, is he said that Hashem would want him to keep going. God gave him life every single moment, and and also his friends, that they would want him to keep going too. That his friends perished on that day. He saw it happen. He had to walk 6 hours away to get out of the whole mess by himself. But he said that they're with him here on this place, and he's with them there. And I had thought about that a lot. And as Jews, we're all in this together. We feel each other's pain today. We feel what's going on today with either tomorrow when everyone will be very happy with Yom HaSmut. Today we're very sad together. And that's just how we are as a people. We feel everything together. And there's no other people in the universe who can feel pain and go through everything together, feel everything together. This is just something I thought was pretty remarkable. I love this quote from Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs. To be a Jew is to be a part of the most remarkable story ever lived by any people, covering more countries, more adverse circumstances, more triumphs and tragedies than any other story. Every one of us has a chapter to write in that story and hand that book on. That is what it's like to be a Jew. And here I put the hostages, which God willing are still alive. Obviously we don't really know what's all of them, if they are or not. My slide went on. Let's see if I can go back. Oh, here, I just wanted to get the exact number. There's 132 hostages that are still in Gaza, and we're praying for them to come back. And during this day, we think about all the Jews and everyone who's passed for our sake, for the state of Israel, and for the Jewish people, whether that was from the pogroms, the Inquisitions, from the terror attacks that happened all throughout our history, the Holocaust, of course, and the soldiers who fell for us. And if they did not sacrifice what they did, we wouldn't have the freedom of being here, and even in America, living as Jews in a free world.
I know that some of them have questions.
Yeah, I'm almost there. I wanted to, what I wanted to really reiterate was at the beginning is when I said what it means to you to be a Jew. And throughout what I just said, my experience being from Indianapolis, Indiana, not really knowing anything about Israeli culture, Jewish culture, how you can go from that to being in a brotherhood with all of these different Jews from all different backgrounds. So Israel is, we will live forever, we will dance forever. We are God's people, His chosen people, and there's no nation like us. And we will flourish and continue to it. And I also, the reason why I put this on here is, as you get older, think about, my rabbi always says, what is your role in the Jewish community? How do you want to be part of Am Yisrael? You're part of the whole story. And not saying you have to go into the army, but as you get older and go on to do more things, think about how you want to be a part of Am Yisrael and how you want to put your name into our story. But I did want to take 1 minute, moment of silence, if that's okay, before any questions, just if everyone could stand up, you just take a moment. Just think about all the soldiers who have fallen, and all the terror victims, and pray for the hostages, and pray for all of our chayalim, and may that they all return in one piece. all good, everyone. If anyone has any questions.
What was the name of the unit that you were?
Sorry, what did you say?
What was the name of the unit that you were?
I was in Natal 931.
Anybody else? I have a question. What made you join?
I don't. It just kind of happened. A lot of my friends were in yeshiva with me, and I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but I didn't feel like it was quite fair that the Israelis had to fight for our country and I didn't have to. As I learned more about our country, I felt like it was my responsibility also to have to go and give some time up for the state of Israel.
God, how much years were you in the army?
I was there for around a year and a half. I left a little bit early. I got injured actually at the end. It's more of a personal injury, so I don't really talk about it much. But what volunteers we do around a year and a half. Yeah.
What was your, when you wanted to go to the army from Indianapolis, what was your family's reaction? They were obviously surprised at first, but how did you kind of convince them to?
Well, they couldn't stop me. One,
You're so
and
eager to go that they couldn't.
yeah, it's hard though, cause you have to have kibbut avim, but it's hard. Like, they weren't against it, but they weren't for it. They're not like, go do the army, but it was something like I really wanted to do, and I felt like I had to do it, and if I didn't do it, I would have regretted it forever, and they didn't want me to have that regret. And obviously, it was also a very different situation. Like, what's going on now with soldiers, I don't think I or my family would have ever thought was happening. I mean, everything was very quiet in Israel. Not to say that you don't think something's gonna happen, but during the time I was in the army, things were quite quiet. Before that, things were quite quiet. I think my parents were kind of happy about that. But obviously, in the army and war, you never know what's gonna happen. But I think they were hoping things were gonna just stay quiet as they were. That answers your question.
One last question and we have to finish over.
Do you still live in Indiana?
Now I live here in Staten Island. I'm married. That's my wife.
Another
and
question,
mother.
I have a question. Do you want to share the story of how being in the army helped you find your shit off?
Oh yeah, I could. Yeah.
I'm gonna give a little bit of background. Mr. Bublick is married to a JFS alumni, Nechama Marilis.
Hey guys.
She graduated from JFS as well. Now you can go.
Yeah, so I should have probably said that at the beginning. A friend of mine came in from the army for a break, and we wanted to meet up in Miami. And while we were in Miami, another friend of mine from the army, from my Mechina, he's in the pictures that I showed before, he happened to know Nechama and her friend, and we met up in Miami. We actually didn't talk for a little bit after that, and I came back to New York to study in the yeshiva for a winter break that I had from college, and we met up from there, and then one thing led to another, and now we're married and have a baby on the way.
So if you join the army, you'll meet your shit off.
Yeah.
We would like to thank you. I want to watch the show. We would like to thank you so much for coming and sharing. Thank you for all you have done in those years while you were in the army, guys. Can 5 more minutes for us to finish our program? I actually sent you a video since you're
Yeah.
projecting. Just a short video to remind us what the IDF goes through.
Here, I think I have to.
I would like to Hope I got the right video. The sound. The sound of the video.
Yeah, turn it, it's all the way off.
say tefillah for his soldiers on the battlefield. And they were going to say tefillah for the people living in the state. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב יברך את חיילים העומד על משמרתנו וערי עלי אלוקינו ייתן דבנו להקמם עלינו ניגפים לפניהם הקדוש ברוך הוא ידבר שונאינו נתנו ויעטרם בכס הישועה ועטרת ניצחון ויקוים בהם כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם יילחם לכם עם אוהביכם יושיע אתכם ונאמר אמן. אבינו שבשמיים צור ישראל לגואלו ברך את ישראל הגן עלינו בעברת חסדך ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. העמיד בראשה אנשיך יראי אלוקים אנשי נצון הבצע ושלח אורך ועמיתך עליהם ותקנהם בעצה טובה בפניך. חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קדושנו והמקימים כן הישוע עטרת ניצחון לכם ונתת שלום בארץ ושמחתו לא יושביה ויתקנו בבית ישראל וכאן בכל ארצות פזורינו ותלכנו מהר קוממיות לציון עירך וירושלים אשכן ושמי כתוב בתורה משה עבדיך אם יהיה נידחך בקצה השמיים משם יקבץ לך משם יקחך ויביאך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך וישתה והיטיבך והרבה מאבותיך ויאחד לבבינו לעבד ליראת שמך לשמוע את כל דברי תורתך ושלח לנו מהר בן דוד משיח תבטיח לפתות לך קץ ישועתך ופע בהדר גאון עוזך וכל יושבי את כבוד ארצך ויאמר כל אשר נשמע והפועל אדוני אלוהי ישראל מלך מלכותו בכל ממשלה אמן סלע